Thanks for tuning in once again to a Tuesday edition here as we talk NASCAR on Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. Joining me once again, as always, by our lead motorsports analyst from rotowire.com, CJ Radune. CJ, how's it going?
Going well, counting down the end of the regular season, getting ready to almost start talking about the playoffs kicking off.
Yes, that would be nice. 2 more races after this, and then we get something more interesting to get into. You're absolutely right. It's at that point in the regular season now. It's just like, come on, we need to raise the stakes. And fortunately, we've got Richmond this week, which has never really been a exciting racetrack, especially after what happened last week. Even though, look, it's only been a few races at Iowa. I will say that compared to what happened at Indianapolis, it was better.
Agreed.
So it now here's the problem now, because we saw ridiculousness of a driver able to take 2 tires out and last basically, even though he only led 20 laps, he led Christopher Bell 60 laps on those tires. And so even though that was the case, I mean, you could look at that as a big negative because again, it's back to you can't pass anybody when you need to, and what are we doing here? And on the other hand, just the way that the track went, cars slipping and sliding and things of that nature, there was a lot of inconsistency around the track, which is better than boring. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But now they're paving the track, aren't they? We're going to have a completely different track next year.
Yeah, I am excited to see what the track repave does. And I will say that better than boring is not exactly the most promising compliment to pay to the race. To me, it's just you've got a wide track, you've got multiple grooves. You're purposefully trying to get tires to wear, and you're trying to get that management of grip to matter, and we just didn't see it. I mean, Bell clearly had more grip and more speed, but whenever he got near, Gibbs, and credit to Gibbs, put his car in the spot that gave Bell and his ability to hold the line a big problem, and that's why he wasn't able to get by. And that specifically is what I don't like about this new car. It was amplified without a doubt at Indianapolis, but we saw it again, in my opinion, at Iowa. It was definitely better than boring, but I think it's got a ways to go. It's not exactly what we want. There's a lot more improvement that could be there, and I'm hopeful that with the repave next year, bringing consistency throughout the different lines, be able to run much wider, so further up the track than somebody that's taking the low line or the opposite way around. Hopefully that gets us more passing at the front, which is ultimately what we're asking for.
And it's another example of the difference in the racing today compared to where it was 5 or 10 years ago. Because 5 or 10 years ago, whoever was in Christopher Bell's spot would have said, "Excuse me, Ty, get the fuck out of my way." And that would have been that. And you know what? Nobody would have blamed them because we all knew who was the better car. But their teammates as well. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure, because Christopher Bell is not exactly Mr. Tough Guy. So I don't know whether Christopher Bell would have moved Gibbs even if he wasn't his teammate. I don't know about that. A better chance for it to happen, but I don't know.
Yeah, definitely a better chance. Christopher Bell's a nice guy. Certainly presents himself that way. Very much races cleanly throughout. I can't recall a time where he's done something blatantly egregious toward anybody on the track. I was kind of expecting him to apply a little bit more pressure, get up there. I mean, he was close enough. He could have tapped him on a couple of times and chose not to. You're right, they're teammates. I wasn't really thinking about that, but I was thinking more about the fact that Christopher Bell is still winless here, and we're 3 races away from the start of the championship. And yes, he's been climbing the standings, and he's been getting tons of top finishes. I want to say like 4 out of his last 5 races have been runner-up finishes. Certainly more than that have been top 5, 6 to 8, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 10 races, but still without a win. So he's definitely got momentum on his side, but I think once we see that win come, I think we're going to see quite a few more from him. And I think he needs that going into the championship. So I was expecting it last week. He continues to play nicely, though, which, good for him.
Well, you should use this as a really good time to take advantage of the odds right now. These are the championship odds because Christopher Bell is sitting there at 9-1. And as you can see, that makes him the 6th choice at 9-1. There's no reason in the world he should be behind Kyle Larson. None. So you have to take advantage of that. 9-1 at this time of the season is a gift. So you know what, depending on how much money you have, I might even forego races. I would just say, you know what, let me put some of that money on Bell to win a championship because we're getting to the playoffs soon, which means the end of the regular season, the end of the season. So you only have a few more months to go. It's not a long season long investment now. Now you're basically, whatever it is, 12, 13 races to go. So Bell definitely really good value. Briscoe continues to be really good value as well. And Joey Logano, his odds have actually gone up to 25-1 since last week. So he was 20-1 last week. He's now 25-1. And if it wasn't for a mistake on pit road, he would have been there in the top 5 the entire race. So Logano is, I'd probably put the line there. I'd probably go Logano, Briscoe, and Bell as 3 really good options at this time of the season. And that's thanks to Denny Hamlin because he's got even money.
Yeah, could not agree more. Bell, like I said, I think once that win comes, I think many more are to follow. You've got 3 months effectively left, 13 races, including this week. Joey Logano did it before. Was it the last time he won the championship, or was it the time before where he hadn't won a race the entire season, squeaked by, got through to the chase, I think by a technicality, didn't Austin?
That was his last win.
Okay. Yeah. And then lit it up and won the championship. So all it takes is getting hot at the right time. Christopher Bell right now is really close to the right time, and he is very hot.
Okay, there are the standings, and Ty Gibbs has all of a sudden moved into a really good position heading into the playoffs. Ryan Blaney's still there. Reddick dropped to 4th after dominating the season as long as he did. And then you take a look at the cutoff point down here, and we're probably still looking at, even Bubba's in pretty good shape. Even SVG seems to be decent. So it looks like it's between Cindric, who does have almost a 30-point lead on Preece, another 22 back to Chastain, 23 to Keselowski, 25 to Jones. So that group there from maybe Eric Jones to Ryan Preece, those are the drivers that I don't know whether or not they have to win 2 out of 3, but one of them may have to win this week. And then Daytona is a wide open, gift that if any of these drivers just needs a win to get in, they couldn't have picked a better track for that possibility. So,
yeah, and look at all of them. All of them are great super speedway racers too. So it's shaping up to be a really good Daytona. Disappointing with Brad Keselowski last week, his inability to move forward after he had to start at the back. That's traffic and the ability to race at a place like Iowa.
That was a backup car, right?
Did he go to a backup car? I can't remember.
I believe so. I think that's the reason, but I don't know. I thought that's the reason he went back there is because he had damage to the car.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, either way, unable to move forward. But yeah, still in the championship hunt. I would draw the line at Jones. So I think SVG's got it as long as he doesn't have any major mistakes like out on the first lap, the next 2 races or whatever. But I do think Austin Cindric's got to be really tidy. He's got to be getting some stage points. And then these other 4 guys have got to be scoring top 10s along with stage points, if not wins, in order to get it done.
Okay, let's see here. We're going to get into the race now. So Let's before we get into the odds, again, we're looking at a very similar racetrack as Iowa, as we mentioned last week. And considering what Gibbs, what the team did to win that race, you have to think that there are quite a number of crew chiefs that are going to have that in their back pocket on Sunday.
Yeah, the only difference this week is that they're not going to be using the same tires that they used last week. So yes, Iowa and Richmond are probably the two most similar tracks, and I think they're going to race relatively similar. Richmond's got a more consistent surface throughout, but track position absolutely matters. It's always been a tough place to pass at. We've seen a lot of races get dominated by one particular driver. But the tire that they used last week is not the one that they're going to be using again this week. They're using the tire that they raced with at Martinsville and North Wilkesboro. So hopefully that adds a little bit more wear into the equation. I don't know if Goodyear brought something a little bit more conservative last week since there had only been 2 races at Iowa before. But hopefully we get a little bit more wear out of the tire. It's a night race, so that'll come into play as well. But still, I mean, regardless, it's Richmond. We know it's a track position race. And if you get the chance to come out and defend with 2 tires, I think I'm taking that all night.
Oh, I mean, why not, right? Especially if you get a bunch of other drivers that do the same thing. That's what you want. You don't want one guy doing it and you got, the fast car right behind you. Hopefully you got 5 drivers saying, screw it, let's go with 2. And then who knows, maybe you get but that's what you don't want. You don't want everybody doing it. Then you got no major advantage, of course, but that's something to keep in mind. As far as the next gen is concerned at Richmond, this is interesting. All 7 winners started outside the top 5, which a little bit unusual considering, as you said, it's a big position track. You want to be starting up front. The average start position for next gen winners in so that's 7 races is 12.7. That ranges from 6th to 26th, and there are no manufacturer edges except the fact that Toyota had themselves a big win on Sunday at a track that they had yet to have success at. And so, and it was interesting because the first 2 winners had started second. Gibbs started 6th. Yet Bell, if he would have won, he started 20th. So that could have really made things a little, but you have to keep, and we'll keep that into consideration when we talk about Iowa next year for sure, is to remind everybody that, Christopher Bell was probably the best car and he did start 20th. So, all right. Who is Denny Hamlin the only favorite in this race? Let's just put it that way.
If he is, it's only going to be by half a point. So I'm going to say he's probably a co-favorite.
With?
I got to say Christopher Bell.
Pretty close.
Ooh, 1/4 point. Well, no, I can't see. I need glasses. 3/4 point.
So Denny Hamlin, remember we mentioned it last week. Denny did not, and look, I know he had issues, mechanical issues, but for whatever reason, Iowa just hadn't been a good track for him. He still found a way to finish 5th. You have to give him that, considering that was not a good track for him, and he had all sorts of problems. But he's still hot. I mean, he's finished 5th and 2nd in his last 3 races. He's been absolutely phenomenal over his career here with 20 top 5s out of 37 races. 5 of those are wins. He's led over 2,300 laps. And in his last 9 races at Richmond, he's got 7 top 5s, 4 runner-ups, and 2 wins. Now, last year, he finished 10th, started 4th, did not lead a lap, which is the first time he did not lead a lap at Richmond since 2019. So I don't know, you got to keep that in mind. And then Bell, Bell does not exactly have like he's got a good, solid history here, but nothing fantastic, nothing that would lead you to think he'd be 5-1, but he's 5-1 because he's red hot and he's like so overdue. It's incredible. He's got 2 top 5s and a runner-up out of 7 next-gen races. Now, keep in mind, in case you're wondering whether or not Chris Bell is overdue, next week, he's won twice at Loudon. So maybe he wins back-to-back races, but just keep that in mind. If you might just say, I'm taking him this week, he's overdue, all the chips are in. But just keep in mind, he's got that Loudon race in his back pocket for next week, because you got to believe it's possible Chris Bell might be the favorite in the race next week. It's very possible.
I think if he runs like he did this week, like he did at Iowa, I think he goes into New Hampshire as the favorite. There's no better driver right now. Denny Hamlin is showing championship winning form. That's what a team does, is they find a way to get those top 10s, those top 5s. He had brake issues, the chattering, etc. Couldn't change what they wanted to change prior to the race, so ended up, in order to keep their track position, ended up figuring out how to get there for sure, but not all the way up as to where he would have preferred to have been. Christopher Bell at this track, really very good average start of 16.6, average finish of 8.7. He led 122 laps in the 2024 race. On his way to finish 6th, he finished 21st in this race last year, despite starting 8th. He was in an accident, if I'm not mistaken, in that race, though, so that kind of dented his chances. So I think, if we don't see Christopher Bell finishing second again, I think he might win, and then maybe he gets 2 in a row, like I said, and starts rattling off a bunch of wins.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mentioned Hamlin had like his least effective race at Richmond last year. Bell, it was similar because, like you said, average start and average finish, 8 position difference in the positive. But last year, this stayed the same because last year he gained 13 spots. But the fact is, he lost 13 spots. Mm-hmm. So it's like Denny. It's like they, as good as they are at this track, especially Hamlin, they're not coming off their best year at Richmond last year. And Bell only has 1 top 5 on the short tracks this year, which was last week. Hamlin, though, has 3 top 5s, including a couple of runner-ups on the short tracks, which Denny has been the best driver on the short tracks now for several seasons.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin, that's the one reason why you have to look at him at Richmond. Just, you can never count him out at a short track, and he's been so good for so many seasons. Surprised that he doesn't have more wins on short tracks already this season. So, with the odds being so close, I might go with Hamlin just because of the short track history recently, and then save Christopher Bell till New Hampshire. I don't think you can go wrong with either of these guys right now, though. And even at roughly 5-1 for Denny Hamlin, that's actually pretty good, better than I would have expected.
Yeah. And I have the first pick this week, right?
Yes, you do.
Yes. What do I do? Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Now you've got Logano Blaney, 7-1. Penske had a good showing last year. They finished 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Blaney led 39 laps and was really right there with Austin Dillon. And it was just Dillon pitted first on the green flag stop. Blaney went second, hoping that would be a benefit. The tires would wear off and Blaney would pass him. Couldn't catch him. And Dillon won, held off Blaney. Logano, meanwhile, started 38th last year and still finished 4th. Logano has 15 top 5s and 32 races at Richmond with 2 wins. In the next gen, he has 3 top 5s and a runner-up. He led 222 laps in the fall race in 2022 when he finished 6th. And in the short tracks this year, Logano has 3 top 10s, 2 top 5s, the win at North Wilkesboro, and The only outlier was last week. And as we mentioned, if they didn't have issues on the pits, he would have had another top 10 on the short tracks. And that's why Logano's odds have been dropping each week. Larson, you know what we're going to say about Kyle Larson. Pass. And Gibbs, now Gibbs, 35-1 in this race last year. 9-1, as you can see here. There's a big reason we know that's justified. He only has one top 10 in 6 races at Richmond and has never led a lap. But the big but comes in the 4 short track races this year. He's got 2 wins and 2 fourth-place finishes. And Bristol is the only track of the 4 that he had previous good history from. So he had never done anything at the other tracks. Of course, never raced at North Wilkesboro. So he in a cup race. So he had never done anything. And that should tell you, don't worry about what his record was here previous, because he's just obliterating those previous marks. And you're getting 9-1 on a red hot driver who has 5 top 10s, 4 top 5s, and a win in his last 6 races.
Is the plus 265, is that the odds for a top 5 or a top 3 for Gibbs?
Top 3 and 5, yeah.
So I think you're getting positive odds for a top 5. I think Gibbs outperforms his best ever finish at Richmond this week. I don't think there's any question about that. He's been so good on the short tracks this year, as you went through all of those numbers. That supports him by far eclipsing his best of a 9th place finish back in 2023 at Richmond. I do not think that he wins 2 in a row, though. It is astonishing to me here, though, that we're getting, 20 plus for Logano for a championship, but here for the race, he's down to 7. That tells you there's a mismatch there and there's value in the championship pick. So go with Logano for the championship. I might also take him for this race because he consistently finishes inside the top 5. If he qualifies a little bit better, doesn't have the pit road issues, I think he's going to be racing among the top 5 for the win. And I think Blaney, happy to come home with another solid top 5, top 10 if he can do it. It was great to see Blaney that the issues that he had in Indianapolis didn't carry through the off week and into Iowa. So he continues to be a very consistent championship contender. Just slipped down a couple of places because Ford just doesn't have the edge over Toyota. Toyota keeps winning these races, as Ty Gibbs did last week, and that was what put Ty Gibbs into second. So clearly it's between Logano and Blaney. Then I would go for Logano just because of how well he's done on the short tracks just this season.
Yeah, Blaney, now we could look at Blaney's run of 12 of his last 13 races have been 11th or better. Mm-hmm. So that he now gets right back into the positive with that result last week. And he's had a good run on the short tracks this year. And I think I need a little bit more than 12-1 odds for that to happen. Reddick, meanwhile, as we all know, just sort of like Larson on a much grander scale, but Reddick just not happening right now. Byron, the same. At least he was 9th last week, but it was a blah 9th at a track he had been magnificent in the first 2 years. He just showed nothing last week. Now we'll see whether, and he really has had no success pretty much whatsoever at Richmond. Bubba, meanwhile, that trend continues for Bubba. Bubba had a better week last week. Matter of fact, if he doesn't speed on pit road, he could have had a top 5 or top 10 car, maybe better. But if you still go by that trend that we've been talking about now lately, then that means that Bubba will have a down week this week. He was 35-1 in this race last year. 14-1 seems a little low for Bubba Wallace in this race. I understand the fact that his last 4 starting position average here is 6.2. And in his last 4 results, he has 3 top 15s and a top 5, led 205 laps. There's a lot to like. He led 123 laps in this race last year.
Spat of horrible form. The crash last week is just more pain on top of everything he's been experiencing. That pressure has got to be building up as the chase approaches for him. So I wouldn't necessarily go with any of them. If you forced me to choose, I would go with Bubba Wallace, though.
Okay, let's move on. Odds get a little bit bigger here. And as far as this group, I mean, you'd want to go with Briscoe at 18-1, 6th or better in 5 of his last 6 races, including a runner-up and a win. He was 6th last week. He's been good on the short tracks this year. 6th last week, as I mentioned, a couple of the top 5s. The problem is he has never had a top 10 at this track and never led a lap, and that includes with Joe Gibbs last year. Still, you're getting 18-1, so you might, you could consider it. Elliott is just going on a bad run. He just can't. I mean, last week, the only reason he was the leading laps was because he was out of sequence. So that really didn't mean anything. He did win Martinsville this year, but the other 3 short track results were not that great. He crashed in this race last year. He does have 6 top 5s out of 18. Buescher is on a really bad run. I think he's very fortunate that the playoffs are coming in a way because I think there are drivers outside the playoffs that are performing better than he has lately. He's just not doing anything. So he's got to start picking it up. He won this race a few years ago, led 88 laps. That was the fall in 2023. And he started 26th in that race. Chastain could be an interesting long shot at 35-1. He's coming off a top 10 last week. And he's gained 31 spots in his last 2 Richmond races. He's got a couple top 5s. And we know he's desperate. And he's not out of it, really. If he can just get really hot in these next 3 races, he could makes things interesting. So out of these last 2 pages, I might actually rather put Chastain in there because he's 35-1.
47 points out of getting into the chase. So some stage points, a win would put him right within striking distance. And then you've got Daytona coming up as well. So the question for going with Chastain this week is whether or not you truly believe that the team found what their problems were in that last off week, because they've been really rough all season, struggling. But then last week they came out and showed that they figured something out. So if that's sustainable, if they're able to carry it forward to Richmond, which is a similar track, then, go with Chastain. And I think that's a good play. Otherwise, if you're not convinced about that, Chase Briscoe is the way to go, despite the fact that he's not had a great record here, never a top 10, but he is in a Toyota, a Joe Gibbs Toyota, relatively more quiet than I expected him to be last week at Iowa. So that was a little bit disappointing, but nonetheless, he was still a solid top 10 contender. I think he's got 4 or 5 top 15s here at Richmond. So he's scratching the surface and could get up there. And with, watching his teammate do a 2-tire call, if he's in position to do the same thing, we could very well see Chase Briscoe up in the lead. So if you believe that Trackhouse has cured their woes, then Chastain. If you believe that is not the case, then out of this group, go with Chase Briscoe.
Okay, next. Starting to really get into long shots now. And the 2 that stick out for me are Kozlowski and Berry. I wish I was getting more for Berry, but 45-1's still good. He's coming off back-to-back top 10s. He's been really good here over his career. He's been here 4 times. His worst finish is 14th, runner-up in his first appearance from 30th. And if you look at it, he's gained 45 positions over 4 Cup races. So he's going to be a really good fantasy bargain. So you got to keep that in mind. We'll talk more about that on Saturday after qualifying and practice. And he's got only 4 top 10s on the season, and 2 of them have come on short tracks. Kozlowski, meanwhile, I'm willing to forgive him last week because of the issues he had on Saturday. Definitely hurt him on Sunday. He was coming in with back-to-back top 10s, and he's had a real good history at this track. Even though he hasn't won in Next Gen, and he was better before, next gen. He does have 4 top 10s and an average of 11th in 7 races in next gen. And he's gained 45 positions in next gen. So those would be the 2 that I would be looking for out of this group.
Without a doubt. And Josh Berry coming in to this week's race on the heels of 2 top 10 finishes, 4th place last week at Iowa, closing out his tenure with Wood Brothers in a strong way. And so I think this is another chance for him to do that. I'd go with Brad Keselowski. Please don't screw up your car prior to the race this week. If so, you're going to be in good position. But I do think Josh Berry's got a head full of momentum. Auditioning for a ride for next year. Really good recent record at Richmond as well. So I would give him just the very slight edge.
Okay, and let's see some more long shots. None of these drivers really stick out. Priest was on the pole last year, led 60 laps early. That was it. SVG, you might want to consider him maybe fantasy wise because last year, he started 2017th, and he does have 2 good results on the short tracks this year, which would make a lot of sense. Bowman, meanwhile, you think that he's a good option, maybe even for fantasy. He was runner-up last year. He won the spring race the year before next gen, but he's only led 18 laps over his last 10 races, which he has 5 top 10s, the runner-up and the win. But last week, you figured that would be a good week for him. Not 0. It's just not happening right now for Bowman. And then Suarez might be interesting, especially for a bargain if you can get a bargain price on him in fantasy, because his last 2 results here, he's finished 7th and 10th, starting 21st in both races and led 93 laps in the fall race in 2024. So I'd probably tell you the truth, out of this group, I might actually look at Suarez and SVG.
Those would be my top choices, especially from a fantasy perspective. Daniel Suarez picked up 14 positions in this race last year. Shane Van Gisbergen picked up 13 in his finish. Any short oval that drives more like a road course, Shane Van Gisbergen, as long as he doesn't get into trouble like he did last week, is going to be somebody that's up there among the top 10, if not top 15, if not among the top 10. So I'd be hard pressed to choose between them. Maybe SVG, just because, he's working to keep his spot in the chase. Suarez has had his share of problems this year, but I think they're both pretty good. I wouldn't complain with getting stuck with either one of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Suarez going to the playoffs, so that's a good deal for him. See if he can keep some of that momentum going. As far as the rest of the long shots, there really isn't anybody that sticks out at all. I guess I would, just because of the way that we feel about Zane Smith, I'd go with him at 130 to 1.
He finished 11th in this race last year, so his average finish is only 23, but he did finish 11th last year. So Zane Smith is a good one to consider this week.
Yeah, and he gained 18 spots, which makes him another good fantasy bargain. The rest of them, including Eric Jones, just does not have a good history here. Jones has never led a lap in his 16 career races at Richmond with 1 top 10. All right, so it's time to do picks. And let's see here. So Hamlin, Bell, Logano, Blaney, Gibbs. Those are the choices for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take... Oh, it's tough.
I know. I've got the easy one this week. Whichever one you don't take.
Yeah. I'm going to... You know what? I'm going to gut myself into taking Christopher Bell. I was going to take Hamlin, but I'm just going to go ahead and just say it's time for Christopher Bell.
it is time for Christopher Bell, and I'd be happy to choose him if you had taken Hamlin, and I would have been happy to choose him 2 weeks in a row going to New Hampshire too. So Christopher Bell, definitely, but since you chose him, I will absolutely take Denny Hamlin at a short track, Richmond.
Okay, so then it's going to be between Logano and Gibbs for me. So I'll go ahead with Logano.
Now it gets more hard. Yeah, I really don't like anybody in this range. So the question is, do I want another Toyota, or do I go away from Toyota because I've already got Hamlin? But I do think the best option, in this middle kind of tier is probably Chase Briscoe. So Briscoe will be my second.
Okay. Long shot time. So I only have 4 long shots this week: Keselowski, Berry, Zane Smith, and Chastain. And out of those 4, I will you know what? I'll go with Josh Berry. Why not?
Yeah, that was going to be my pick. Since you did not go with Berry, I will really hope he doesn't mess his car up this week, and we'll go with Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was between me. It was Berry and Keselowski. I just figured, hey, you know what? I hit with Berry last year with his big price, and that was 100-1 or something like that. So I've got some good karma with Berry, so why not? All right, and again, I think the other drivers that would have been on board for me that didn't take would be the top ones would be Gibbs. It was really the only one that was left at the top that we both didn't take, and then Zane Smith and Chastain as long shots.
I would throw Logano on there. Logano was a consideration. I just think that Ford is still a step behind the Toyotas, which is why you got to go with Hamlin there. So if you're willing to put more down, I think Logano is a good way to go as well.
Okay, and so we got 2 races to go. So next week is New Hampshire. Both of them is Daytona Saturday night?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got Sunday, Saturday night. That's how it's going to be?
Saturday night at Richmond, Sunday at New Hampshire, then Saturday night at Daytona.
Oh, it's Saturday night this week.
This week is a Saturday night race. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. That's good.
About time. We have to wait until the end of the summer, almost fall, before we get our night races, Saturday night races.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, then that means that I'm going to be on the air on Friday night. And I don't imagine it's going to be too late, but you never know. I would hope that the odds would be available on a Friday night pretty early after qualifying and practice, which ends at 5:30 on Friday. So hopefully there won't be, I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if there's no, I don't think there is an O'Reilly race this week.
No, but the trucks are there Friday night.
Okay. So that shouldn't interfere with odds for Cup. So hopefully once the qualifying is over, the odds will be out. Hopefully I can do a show at 7 on Friday, but you never know. But it'll be Friday night. And then don't forget, too, that you can check out links in the description of this video. You can bookmark CJ's page at rotowire.com for his weekly DFS picks report that comes out on Fridays. And so that'll be good timing this week. Of course, if for some reason that you don't go with that option and you just want to do it every week, then when I'm on the air on Friday to do the qualifying report, I'll let you know about the link in the description, and that'll be a different link because that will actually be the updated link for this week's race that CJ will have available. If you go there right now, you can just bookmark it and you can check out all of his previous articles and anything else that you want to surf through over on rotowire.com. Next week, we will preview New Hampshire, and then it's off to Daytona. So we're finally getting there, CJ. And we'll see if it's interesting. We'll see if we've got an interesting Daytona. It'd be nice if there was something on the line for playoffs.
They are changing the rules, so there are a couple of tweaks to help prevent that fuel mileage. Let's all run in line type of thing. So
that's right. Yes.
See how those work. So that's definitely something to look forward to hopefully, Daytona is usually exciting regardless, but hopefully these changes get us a little bit more closer to all out racing throughout the whole distance. But we'll have to survive New Hampshire first, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we'll have 2 night races in the next 3 weeks.
Exactly right.
All right. And then after that, it's football season.
I was going to say, not until do you get another race.
Yeah. And as I said before, don't forget, you can catch me on Saturday nights, midnight. I can't believe I've agreed to do this all season long on Saturday, every Saturday midnight, college football. We'll take a look at what happened in the day of college football. And so I'll have my Saturday night NASCAR qualifying and practice reports before I do my college football shows on Saturdays. So that'll make my Saturdays really, really busy for several months, but that's okay. I could be doing something a lot more boring, like attending a race at the Brickyard for NASCAR Cup Series. Anyway, so that's going to do it. Thanks for tuning in. And CJ, we'll see you again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.